Some shows only need a few seconds on screen to transport us back to our entire childhood, and Full House is undoubtedly one of them. From the Tanner house in San Francisco, Danny, Jesse, Joey, DJ, Stephanie, and Michelle became familiar faces to millions of viewers. Many years have passed, and the actors have taken very different paths, but the memories of the show remain as captivating as ever. In this video, we'll take a look back at the cast of Full House then and now. If you also loved the show, comment with your favorite character, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. In the late 1980s, Full House viewers witnessed something quite unique that many didn't even realize at the time. Michelle Tanner was actually played by twins Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. When they started the show, both were only about 9 months old. Because child labor laws limited their time on set, Mary-Kate and Ashley took turns appearing before the camera together, creating a seamless Michelle that seemed to belong to just one little girl. As Danny Tanner's youngest daughter, Michelle, grew up in a household constantly filled with voices, music, and unexpected situations. Initially, she was just the baby, often seen in the arms of Danny, Jesse, or Joey. But over time, Michelle developed a distinct personality, curious, mischievous, confident, and sometimes knowing exactly how to get the adults in the house to give in. The natural reactions of the Olsen twins, along with many short catchphrase-like lines, helped Michelle become one of the most recognizable faces of Full House. The most interesting part is that audiences almost got to see Michelle grow up alongside Mary-Kate and Ashley. From her first steps and first day of school to stories about friendship and responsibility, the 8 seasons captured nearly an entire phase of the actress's childhood. When Full House ended in 1995, they were no longer just known for Michelle Tanner. The sisters went on to appear in numerous films and programs for young audiences, building a massive entertainment brand in the 1990s and early 2000s. Later, their direction changed significantly. Mary-Kate and Ashley gradually stepped away from acting to focus on fashion, particularly with their brand, The Row. When Fuller House brought many Tanner family members back to the screen, Michelle was one of the few main characters who did not return. However, that absence didn't fade the memory of the youngest Tanner. By 2026, Mary-Kate and Ashley have both turned 40, while Michelle's image remains almost perfectly preserved in childhood. A little girl growing up in a crowded San Francisco home, accompanying viewers through 8 seasons of television. Rebecca Donaldson appeared in Full House not as a Tanner relative, but as a mature woman with her own career and voice. When Lori Loughlin first took on the role of Becky in 1988, the character was introduced as Danny Tanner's co-host on the television show Wake Up San Francisco. But soon after, the meeting between Becky and Jesse Katsopoulos sparked one of the longest-running and most familiar relationships of the series. Jesse back then was still a free spirit, obsessed with music, and not always ready for the responsibilities of family life. Becky, on the other hand, was more practical and calm, rarely letting Jesse's charm sway her own perspective. That contrast created the appeal for both characters. Becky didn't appear to change Jesse completely. Instead, their relationship showed Jesse gradually changing himself as he began to think about marriage, family, and the future. Over many seasons, viewers watched them date, disagree, reconcile, and eventually marry. When Becky became Rebecca Katsopoulos and they welcomed twins Nikki and Alex, she officially became an essential part of the Tanner extended family. But even after starting a family, Becky maintained her image as a woman with a job and her own identity. She could be gentle with the children in the house, but was often the one to provide a grounded perspective when other members got caught up in over-the-top situations. That's also why Aunt Becky held a distinct position compared to many supporting characters in Full House. She didn't just enter the story through Jesse. She became someone DJ, Stephanie, and Michelle could turn to for advice, from a viewpoint different from Danny, Joey, or Jesse. After Full House concluded, Lori Loughlin continued her television career with projects like Summerland, 90210, and When Calls the Heart. Years later, she stepped back into Becky's shoes for Fuller House. By 2026, it has been nearly 4 decades since Becky first appeared, but for viewers who watch the Tanner family every week, she remains synonymous with the woman who entered that house as a guest and eventually became part of the family. Joey Gladstone is perhaps the clearest proof of one of the enduring messages of Full House: family isn't always determined by blood. When the story began in 1987, Danny Tanner was trying to raise 3 daughters after losing his wife. Jesse Katsopoulos came to help as a relative, while Joey entered the Tanner home for a simpler reason. He was the best friend willing to be there when Danny needed him most. Dave Coulier was 28 when he began playing Joey. With a background in comedy and a talent for impressions, he quickly brought those real-life skills to the character. Joey could turn a normal breakfast into a performance, speaking in cartoon voices or making the kids laugh with just an expression. The catchphrase "cut it out," along with the familiar hand gesture, became one of the character's most recognizable hallmarks. But if Joey were only there for laughs, the character might not have lasted so long in the viewer's memories. Behind the jokes was a man who accepted a responsibility he was never obligated to take. Joey helped with the kids, cared for them, solved small troubles, and was there during the hard times. To DJ, Stephanie, and Michelle, he gradually became an uncle despite having no blood relation. Joey's own journey also reflected familiar adult struggles. He pursued his dream of being a stand-up comedian, experiencing both success and disappointment, trying his hand at television and always trying to stay optimistic. While Danny often represented responsibility, and Jesse went through the growth of a free-spirited musician becoming a husband and father, Joey showed that one could still keep their sense of humor and youthfulness while being a reliable adult. Dave Coulier continued with stand-up comedy hosting and voice acting after Full House ended. He also returned for Fuller House, where Joey was no longer the 28-year-old living in the Tanner basement.
Well, this is my family, and we're so close, and we've never really time. We really do love each other, which sounds kind of cheesy.
But had entered a completely new chapter of life. In recent years, Coulier has also shared his journey through serious health issues and continues to stay in touch with his old co-stars. Looking back at Joey today doesn't just bring back memories of funny voices or living room antics. What has made the character endure for nearly 4 decades is something simpler. Danny needed a friend, and Joey stayed. From a friend moving in to help temporarily, he became an indispensable part of the family that audiences spent 8 seasons loving. If Joey Gladstone also made you laugh, or reminds you of a friend who always showed up right when you needed them, please share your most memorable Full House moment in the comments. And if you enjoy these look-backs at classic TV characters and their journeys through the years, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next episodes. Stephanie Tanner entered Full House as a very small girl, but she quickly became one of the Tanner family members with the most distinct personality. Jodie Sweetin was only 5 when she took on the role in 1987. From the very first seasons, Stephanie stood out for her wit, directness, and natural reactions to everything happening around her. The catchphrase, "How rude," became synonymous with the character, but Stephanie's appeal wasn't just in the funny moments. As the middle daughter, Stephanie often occupied a unique position. DJ was older and given more responsibility, while Michelle was the youngest and the center of the family's attention. Stephanie, therefore, had to find her own way to stand out between her sisters. This created many stories about sibling rivalry, wanting attention, friendship, and the very familiar challenges of childhood. Throughout each season, viewers didn't just see Stephanie grow up physically, but also watched her become more mature in how she viewed her family and those around her.
You're not done. Don't say that.
Jodie Sweetin also grew up almost in parallel with her character. Starting as a child actress at just 5, she spent most of her childhood and early teens on the Full House set. This gave Stephanie a very natural continuity. The character's changes often aligned with Sweetin's own real growth process. When Full House ended in 1995, Sweetin entered a different phase of life. Years later, she returned as Stephanie in Fuller House. This time, Stephanie was no longer the little girl interrupting her sister's stories or competing with Michelle for attention. She was now an adult with her own choices, responsibilities, and stories. Beyond acting, Sweetin published a memoir, appeared on Dancing with the Stars, and has maintained a connection to the Full House legacy for years. By 2026, she is 44 years old. Looking back at Stephanie today is like opening a family album. Audiences knew her at 5, then saw her through her school years, her tantrums, her first friendships, and the process of learning to be herself. Perhaps that is why Stephanie Tanner brings such a unique sense of familiarity. Not a perfect character, but a girl who truly grew up in front of millions. From the very first episode of Full House, DJ Tanner had to take on a role that isn't easy for any child, being the eldest of 3 sisters. When Candace Cameron Bure began playing DJ in 1987, she was 11. Over 8 seasons, her character became a central axis that helped the story transition from simple family situations to experiences closer to adolescence. DJ was often seen as the most reliable of the Tanner sisters, but that didn't mean she always knew what to do. It was precisely her mistakes that made the character relatable. DJ had to learn to share responsibility with Stephanie, look after Michelle, maintain friendships, deal with school pressure, and gradually understand the first emotions of adulthood. A key part of DJ's journey was growing up without a mother. Danny always tried to give his daughters the necessary attention, while Jesse and Joey became 2 different adult role models in their lives. But as the eldest, DJ was often the first of the 3 sisters to reach new milestones. What she went through often became experience for Stephanie and Michelle to look up to. Over 8 seasons, viewers saw DJ transform from an 11-year-old girl into a young woman preparing to leave her high school years behind. Candace Cameron also grew up with that role, making the boundary between the actress's and the character's adulthood feel very natural at times. Years later, Fuller House reversed the very structure that made the original story. DJ was now grown and the head of her own family. Candace Cameron Bure returned to the familiar role, but instead of being the daughter needing advice from Danny, she was now the one making decisions for her children and home. Outside the Tanner world, Bure continued her career as an actress, producer, author, and host. She co-hosted The View and competed on Dancing with the Stars. By 2026, she is 50 years old. If Michelle represented childhood and Stephanie the journey of finding one's place, DJ was the bridge between the children and the adults in the Tanner home. Audiences saw her learn to be a sister. Decades later, they met DJ as a mother. It is that full circle that makes her journey one of the most distinct then and now stories of Full House. Jesse Katsopoulos entered the Tanner house with perfectly styled hair, a leather jacket, and dreams of becoming a rock star. Looking back at only the first episodes, it's hard to imagine that this freedom-loving man would later become one of the characters most deeply tied to the family. John Stamos was 24 when he began playing Jesse in 1987. He brought a sense of confidence, musical energy, and a comedic edge to the character that was distinct from Danny and Joey. Danny was the father trying to keep everything orderly. Joey often turned life into a joke, and Jesse appeared as the young uncle not yet used to the responsibility of childcare. This difference created much of the appeal of the adult trio in the early seasons, but Jesse changed significantly over 8 seasons. Initially helping Danny care for DJ, Stephanie and Michelle was almost a total adjustment to his lifestyle. From someone frequently focused on music friends and his own image, Jesse gradually became a person who could put the children's needs before his own plans. The relationship between Jesse and Michelle in particular became one of the most remembered connections of the show. Michelle often turned to Uncle Jesse, and Jesse showed a tender side that his outward style didn't always suggest. These small moments helped the character go beyond the initial cool uncle image. The arrival of Rebecca "Becky" Donaldson opened another stage of maturity. Jesse had to learn to maintain a serious relationship, then enter marriage, and finally become a father to twins Nikki and Alex. Viewers thus witnessed one of the most visible growth processes in Full House, from a free-spirited guy to a husband and father who still kept his passion for music, but understood the meaning of responsibility. Music was also always a key part of Jesse. The bands, the performances, and his love for rock and roll were maintained throughout the show. This also reflected part of the real John Stamos, who continued to perform for years and often played with the Beach Boys. After Full House, he appeared in projects like ER, Grandfathered You, and Big Shot before returning as Jesse in Fuller House. By 2026, John Stamos is 62. Nearly 4 decades have passed since Uncle Jesse first walked into the Tanner house, but the character's image remains tied to a very recognizable journey of maturity. He didn't give up music to become a family man. He learned how to make both coexist. And perhaps that is why Jesse is still remembered after all these years. The hair, the leather jacket, and the familiar catchphrases made up his look, but witnessing a man slowly learn to love, care, and stay was the part that gave Uncle Jesse's journey such lasting life. Nearly 40 years since Full House aired, Uncle Jesse is still a name that immediately reminds many viewers of the Tanner house. For you, is Jesse most memorable for his humor, his love for family, or his never-fading passion for music? Leave your choice in the comments. If these returns to classic TV shows and characters are what you want to see more of on the channel, a like, subscription, and bell notification will ensure you're there when the next story begins. Not every Full House character needed many episodes to leave a mark. Lionel appeared in only one Christmas Story, but Sorrel Book's portrayal gave that episode a very different color from the series' typical family tales. When Lionel appeared, he didn't feel like a character inserted to provide immediate warmth. On the contrary, his somewhat unapproachable appearance, raspy voice, and impatient reactions made it hard for audiences to guess who he really was at first. On the Tanner family flight, Michelle accidentally knocked off Lionel's wig, creating a situation both awkward and funny. Sorrel Book made great use of the contrast between his grumpy exterior and hidden mischievousness to keep the character secret until the end of the story. The most memorable point came when Lionel was revealed to be Santa Claus. After the Tanners' gifts were lost, he quietly helped return them and helped Stephanie regain her faith in the magic of Christmas. For a sitcom often revolving around everyday lessons, this episode allowed Full House to step lightly into a more fairy tale space while keeping its inherent family spirit. Sorrel Book was already a seasoned actor by then. He was most widely known as Boss Hogg in The Dukes of Hazzard, but his career spanned stage, film, and television with works like Dr. Kildare, Failsafe, and What's Up, Doc? Book passed away on February 11, 1994 in Sherman Oaks, California at age 64. Thus, his brief appearance in Full House carries an added sense of nostalgia today. Lionel didn't become a regular member of the Tanner family, but he represented a type of character that family sitcoms of that era did very well. A guest who appears for a short time, changes the emotion of an episode, and then leaves, leaving a memory much longer than their actual screen time. A preschool interview might not seem like the easiest setting to create a memorable Full House moment. But in such a normal situation, Denise Dowse helped the story convey one of its clearest lessons about how adults perceive children. Dowse appeared as Mrs. Jacobs, the preschool representative, when Jesse and Becky were trying to get their twin sons into the school. Jesse, wanting the best for his kids, began exaggerating Nikki and Alex's abilities. Mrs. Jacobs didn't need to raise her voice or create a dramatic confrontation. Dowse kept the character calm, observant, and measured, letting the truth gradually reveal itself. That composure helped her fulfill her important role. The message wasn't that Jesse was a bad father, but that parents' love can sometimes come with oversized expectations. Mrs. Jacobs served as a reminder that children need to be seen for their own abilities and personalities rather than being placed in a race to meet adult ambitions. For Denise Dowse, this was just a brief appearance in a much longer career. She was widely known to TV audiences as Vice Principal Yvonne Teasley in Beverly Hills 90210. She also appeared in The Guardian Insecure, Ray Pleasantville, and Starship Troopers. Beyond acting, Dowse was a director, acting teacher, and spent much of her time supporting young artists. Denise Dowse passed away on August 13, 2022, after a severe bout of meningitis at age 64. Looking back at Full House guest stars, Mrs. Jacobs might not be the first name to come to mind for most viewers. But that's what makes the role notable. In just a few short scenes, Dowse helped a school story become a gentle reminder to let children develop as themselves. And sometimes, the characters who only pass through one episode are the ones who say exactly what the whole family needs to hear. Before Jesse Katsopoulos was the uncle viewers loved before Becky, Nikki, and Alex, there was a family that helped shape the man he became. Nick Katsopoulos brought that past into the Tanner home. John Aprea first appeared as Nick in 1988. The character was Jesse's father-husband to Irene Katsopoulos, and a man very proud of his family. Nick could be tough, direct, and sometimes quite strict, especially with his son. But beneath that was a father who cared for Jesse and wanted him to build a stable life. Nick's presence helped Jesse become more rounded as a character. Previously, audiences mainly knew Jesse through music, baiting affection for his three nieces and his image. When Jesse's parents appeared, viewers began to understand his family roots, the traditions he grew up with, and why he valued intergenerational ties. Nick also created a different type of comedy in Full House. Instead of Joey's antics or Danny's perfectionism, laughter often came from the interaction between a strong father and a grown son who could still be reminded of childhood stories by his parents. Those moments made the Katsopoulos family feel real outside the Tanner house, as if Jesse actually had a history before the show began. Although John Aprea only appeared in a few episodes, Nick was there at times that helped expand Jesse's family world.
$100. Quindi succede?
So, veramente bestia. Riescono chi Fanucci have il primo.
Years later, Aprea returned to this role in Fuller House, creating a direct connection between the show's two generations. Outside of Full House, Aprea had a decades-long career. One of his most remembered roles was the young Salvatore Tessio in The Godfather Part 2. He also appeared in Bullet, The Stepford Wives, Another World, Knots Landing, and The Sopranos. John Aprea passed away in Los Angeles on August 5, 2024, at age 83. Today, looking back at Nick Katsopoulos, the value of the character isn't in the number of episodes. Nick helped the audience understand that Jesse didn't become a family-oriented person by accident. Before Jesse learned to be an uncle, a husband, and then a father, he was also a son, and Nick's presence made Jesse's journey feel more complete. If John Aprea's name just reminded you of a time sitting in front of the screen with Full House, leave a dot of memory or your favorite character's name in the comments. I'd love to know how many people still remember Nick Katsopoulos after all these years. And if you don't want to miss the next faces, some who have changed completely, some who have left us, like, subscribe, and hit the bell. There are still many stories ahead worth looking back on. Whenever Irene Katsopoulos appeared, Full House seemed to open a window for viewers to better understand where Jesse came from. Yvonne Wilder first took on the role of Jesse's mother in 1988 at age 51. Irene was not the type of mother to stand quietly behind her son. She was direct, affectionate, humorous, and especially liked to recount childhood stories that often put Jesse in awkward situations in front of the whole family. But those moments helped the character feel very down to earth.
Oh, sure, I'll understand. Hey, it's me. I'm hip, I'm with it, I'm big. So tell me what you have to tell me.
Okay. Well,
To Irene, Jesse, despite being grown up, pursuing music, and always trying to look cool, was still the child she once cared for. The interaction between them created another layer for Jesse, because before his mother, he wasn't entirely the Uncle Jesse persona audiences knew. He returned to the position of a son in a family with its own history, traditions, and memories. Irene also played a key role in clarifying the Katsopoulos family background. She and Nick brought a sense that Jesse didn't just belong to the Tanner house, but had a very close-knit, original family. This was especially meaningful during Jesse's big milestones, including his wedding to Becky. Irene's presence helped those moments not just be about Jesse and Becky, but a connection between two generations and two family branches. Although she only appeared in 7 episodes, Yvonne Wilder gave Irene a clear identity. Before Full House, she appeared in the 1961 West Side Story as Consuelo, and later in Operation Petticoat, Seems Like Old Times, and many TV shows. She was also active in other creative fields like comedy, writing, painting, and sculpture. Yvonne Wilder passed away in Los Angeles on November 24, 2021, at age 84. Looking back at Irene Katsopoulos today, perhaps what is most memorable is the sense of family she brought. Irene helped audiences see that before Jesse became the uncle caring for his nieces, then a husband and father, he grew up in a home full of stories, teasing, and love. That foundation gave Jesse's growth in Full House more depth. Mrs. Carruthers didn't need to appear long for audiences to know that whenever she entered a scene, the atmosphere would likely change. Marcia Wallace brought a cheerful energy, confident speaking style, and a unique humor to the role, turning a supporting school character into a face viewers could immediately recognize. Wallace first appeared as Mrs. Carruthers in 1993 at age 51. The character worked at the school and was often remembered for her boldness, dramatic personality, and clear interest in Joey Gladstone. The scenes between them created a different type of comedy from the Tanner family dynamics. Joey was usually the one surprising others with jokes and impressions, but before Mrs. Carruthers, he was sometimes the one trying to react to a character even more unpredictable than himself. What Marcia Wallace did well was not letting Mrs. Carruthers become a character that existed only for a joke. Behind the bold exterior, there was warmth and goodwill. That balance helped the character fit into the world of Full House, where most comedic situations ultimately returned to kindness between people. This role was just a small part of Wallace's long career. Previously, she was famous as Carol Kester on The Bob Newhart Show. Later, her distinctive voice became familiar to another generation through the character Edna Krabappel on The Simpsons. This voice role earned Wallace a Primetime Emmy in 1992. She also appeared in many television shows, game shows, and stage productions throughout her career. Marcia Wallace passed away on October 25, 2013, at age 70. In a series with many supporting characters who passed through the Tanner house and disappeared, Mrs. Carruthers held a unique spot. She didn't change the direction of Full House, nor did she need a major plot to be remembered. Just with her voice expressions and ability to turn normal situations into comedy, Marcia Wallace created a small character with enough personality to evoke the sitcom style of that era years later. Marcia Wallace touched many generations of audiences with very different roles, and each person might remember her in their own way. For you, what name comes first when she is mentioned? Write it in the comments. If this video is taking you back to a memorable TV era, help the journey continue by liking, subscribing, and turning on notifications. Who knows, the next character might be a face you haven't seen in a long time. Some characters appear only a few times, but are tied to one of the deepest memories of the series. In Full House, Papuli was exactly such a character. Jack Crucian first played Papuli in 1990 at age 68. As the grandfather Jesse deeply respected, Papuli brought warmth, pride in his Greek heritage, and a clear sense of connection between generations in the Katsopoulos family. He didn't need frequent appearances for the audience to understand his position. Just through how Jesse spoke with him, how the kids welcomed him, and the joy Papuli brought to the Tanner house, viewers could feel that this was someone present in the family history long before the story of Full House began. Jack Crucian portrayed Papuli with a gentle demeanor. The character could play with children, tell family stories, and preserve traditions, but what made Papuli most memorable was his relationship with Jesse. Jesse was usually seen as the youthful, music-loving, confident uncle. When Papuli appeared, another side of Jesse opened up. He became a grandson who still held great respect for the previous generation. Papuli returned in 1994 in the episode The Last Dance. In this story, the character died suddenly, forcing Jesse and Michelle to confront the loss of a close relative for the first time. Notably, the episode didn't just focus on sadness, but showed that each family member had a different way to understand and accept passing. For Jesse, it was learning that even those who felt like permanent fixtures in life couldn't stay forever. For Michelle, it was one of her first times understanding the meaning of saying goodbye. Outside of Full House, Jack Crucian had a decades-long career on radio, film, and TV. He received an Oscar nomination for playing Dr. Dreyfus in The Apartment and appeared in numerous works throughout his 60-year career. Jack Crucian passed away in Chandler, Arizona on April 2, 2002 at age 80. Today, Papuli is remembered not for the number of episodes, but for the meaning of his appearances. He connected Jesse to the Katsopoulos family past while bringing one of the rare Full House stories that spoke directly to children about memory loss and how a family keeps a loved one in their heart even when they are no longer present. Before Danny Tanner was the father trying to keep the house clean and everything on track, he was also a son. Claire Tanner's appearance helped viewers see that. Doris Roberts took the role of Claire, Danny's mother, in a 1989 episode at age 63. Claire had just retired and visited her son's family wanting to help, but the visit quickly showed a familiar issue between parents and grown children sometimes. The desire to feel needed makes it hard to let go of old roles. Claire didn't appear as a weak or dependent mother. On the contrary, Doris Roberts brought confidence, independence, and a bit of stubbornness. Claire wanted to contribute care for everyone and feel she still had a clear place in her son's life. Thus, her intent to extend her stay at the Tanner house created both funny situations and a gentle question about life purpose after a major phase ends. The role also made Danny more interesting. In most of Full House, he was the responsible adult, the advice giver, and the one ending sibling disputes with a talk. But when Claire appeared, Danny was in the position of a son trying to explain to his mother that he could care for his own family. That reversal alone created a new perspective on the show's central character. Doris Roberts appeared in only one episode, but she was already an experienced actress. Later, her name became tied to Marie Barone in Everybody Loves Raymond, earning her 4 Emmys. She had won an Emmy before and had a long career on stage, film, and TV. Doris Roberts passed away in Los Angeles on April 17, 2016, at age 90. Claire Tanner only visited the world of Full House briefly, but the role showed something the series did well. Family isn't just about parents and small children. Even as an adult, Danny was the son of a mother who loved him. And through Claire, viewers were reminded that each generation must learn to find a new place as loved ones grow and life changes. If one character held all of Full House together, Danny Tanner is almost impossible to ignore. When the show began in 1987, Danny was a widowed father trying to raise 3 daughters, DJ, Stephanie, and Michelle. Bob Saget was 31. Instead of building Danny as a father who always had the perfect answer, Saget made the character relatable through a blend of perfectionism, clumsiness, humor, and a clear love for his children. Danny was famous for his love of cleanliness and order. Vacuum cleaners' reminders to clean rooms or efforts to keep the house tidy were constant sources of laughter. But behind those details was a man trying to create a sense of safety for 3 kids after a major family change. Danny's sometimes excessive habits weren't just comedic. They reflected a desire to keep life stable in a home where every member was learning to adapt. One of Danny's most important decisions was accepting help. Jesse Katsopoulos and Joey Gladstone moved in, forming the show's special structure, 3 men with completely different personalities raising 3 girls. Danny was usually the most rational of the trio. Jesse brought freedom and music, Joey brought laughter, and Danny tried to keep everyone focused on a common home. But what made him memorable wasn't always being right. In many stories, Danny also had to learn to listen, let go of control, and accept that his children would become increasingly independent. His relationship with each daughter had its own color. With DJ, Danny had to learn to be the father of a girl entering her teens. With Stephanie, he often had to balance outward strength with her sensitivity. With Michelle, Danny faced the familiar challenge of a father with too much of a soft spot for the youngest child. Over 8 seasons, viewers saw Danny not only raise his children, but also grow alongside them. Family issues shifted from baby care to friendship school, first love, and teenage choices. While the Tanner house remained almost unchanged, those living inside it were constantly changing. Beyond Full House, Bob Saget was widely known as the host of America's Funniest Home Videos. He had a long stand-up career and later voiced the older Ted Mosby in How I Met Your Mother. Years after Full House ended, Saget returned as Danny in Fuller House, allowing viewers to see the familiar father at a completely different life stage. Bob Saget passed away on January 9, 2022 in Orlando, Florida, at age 65, following a head injury from an unwitnessed fall. Thus, watching Full House today, Danny Tanner's image carries a different weight than when the show first aired. Audiences can still laugh at his perfectionism, long talks, or the chaotic life of 6 people under one roof, but simultaneously, Those episodes preserve Bob Saget at a specific point in his career, younger, standing in the Tanner living room, helping create the image of a TV father that generations of viewers still remember. Danny Tanner wasn't a perfect father, and that's why the character has lasted so long. He worried too much sometimes, over-controlled, and didn't always immediately understand what the kids needed. But after every mistake, Danny always returned to what was most important, being there, listening, and keeping the family together. That was the core of Full House. Behind the laughter and memories, the story was always about a home people chose to stay in for each other. From the girls who grew up right before our eyes to the veteran actors who appeared in only a few episodes, everyone contributed their own part to the memory called Full House. Time has taken the cast on very different paths, but the Tanner house, the living room conversations, and the warmth of the show remain for many generations. The artists who have passed away also continue to be remembered through their work and the moments they left on screen. As for you, which Full House character do you remember most, and which scene still makes you smile? Share your memories in the comments. If you love these then and now journeys, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos. See you again in another return to a classic TV memory.